Today's trip begins in Freeport, Pennsylvania, a little town just shy of 23 miles upstream from the point in Pittsburgh where the Allegheny and Monongahela rivers join to form the Ohio River. Here's a picture I took from the opposite bank of the Allegheny up on the Baker Trail, showing the little town. Nestled where Buffalo Creek enters the Allegheny River. Freeport received its name because riverboats did not need to pay any fees for docking, loading, or unloading cargo there. Therefore, the town was a free port. The main branch of Buffalo Creek has its headwaters near Chicora, about 5 miles northeast of Butler, which is circled in red here, and it flows almost 35 miles before it merges into the Allegheny River at Freeport, the main branch being highlighted in blue here, and Freeport circled in green. Buffalo Creek has a dozen tributaries, which include Patterson Creek, Rough Creek, Corn Planter, and Sarver Runs, and along with a half dozen other waterways titled with some combination of the name Buffalo in it. Now we're going to zoom in on the town of Freeport. There's the high bridge over the Allegheny River, that's Route 356. And this is the boat launch at Freeport where we're going to start our trip. We'll zoom in on that, and you can see a couple trailers parked in the parking lot there, and there's the dock that extends out into Buffalo Creek. Then we're going to head north about 3/4 mile upstream Buffalo Creek. That's the 2nd Street Bridge. Go underneath that. On the left is the parking lot for the Butler Freeport Community Trail. Then we're going to head upstream. Here's an area where there is acid mine drainage coming off a hill. And this is Valley Mills, also known as Mickey Mills, a grist mill. And we'll continue a little further upstream and go underneath this abandoned railroad bridge and turn around and then head back to Freeport. And we'll go past the boat launch underneath the stone railroad bridge and go take a peek out on the Allegheny River. Just go up maybe 50 yards, turn around, and then return back to the boat launch. Enough talk. Let's get on the water. I've gotten much better at getting in and out of the kayak, sitting on the paddle and the edge of the boat. And once I get my butt on the top there, I can usually get my feet in without much trouble. Put the drip skirt on, just to keep the drips from the paddle from going onto my pants. This isn't a spray skirt meant to roll a kayak over upside down. This is just a drip skirt to keep me from getting wet drips off the paddle. And we'll push off. Grab the very end of my Greenland paddle, nice big long lever. You can see my orange paddle tether. If If I dropped the paddle, I would surely be up a creek without a paddle. No way to motivate. And just get into a nice, easy rhythm, heading upstream. You can see the 2nd Street Bridge in the background there. The temperature was an incredible 70 degrees today, and I only wore a button shirt and pants and was comfortable the entire day with the sun shining on me most of the time. On the left, we're passing the lower terminus of the Butler Freeport Community Trail, the 20-mile rail trail that connects its namesake communities. And on the left, you can see the 3-story wooden mill called Valley Mills, also known as Mickey Mills, built in 1871. And the mill continued in operation until 1965, grinding mostly winter wheat and buckwheat. It is powered by a water turbine, not a water wheel. Sadly, the contents of the mill were sold at auction in March of 2020. Here you can see a fairly sizable amount of acid water flowing down a hillside from an abandoned coal mine opening about 50 feet above the water. There is one spot of acid mine drainage that I paddle past on the Kiski River, although it's much smaller, more of a seep than a flow like this one. A Greenland paddle, like the one I'm using, as the name indicates, is a type of paddle originating in Greenland about 1,000 years ago for use with kayaks. Greenland is a treeless land starved for wood. Arctic hunters walked along beaches looking for driftwood branches and stumps suitable to make boats and paddles. The long, narrow shape of the Greenland paddle made efficient use of this limited resource. Because of the symmetry and shape of the short shaft and the long blades, the paddle is easy to orient correctly in your hands, especially when the blade has shoulders where the blade joins the shaft and an oval-shaped shaft like the one I have. There is no front or back, no left or right side to a Greenland paddle. It may be used whichever way you pick it up and wherever you place your hands, allowing you to reach out much further and giving you more leverage. The Greenland's paddle flatter, more horizontal stroke is easier on the shoulders and muscles, and thus less fatiguing on day-long trips. Despite the Greenland paddle looking like a stick and lacking wide, scooping, spoon-shaped blades, the surface area is similar to the Euro blade, the blade being spread out further along the shaft. Now I'm coming up on where the creek runs underneath that abandoned railroad bridge. The creek is pushed off to one side. The whole flow is going on this side. It's much faster. And I'm having to work pretty hard to go against the current here. As you can hear the water up against the boat. I'm really digging in to pull the boat upstream. So I just want to get up here far enough beyond the bridge pier so that I can turn around. The worst case scenario would be to have the kayak go broadside to the pier and have the current push the boat against the pier. It would just snap in two. So we'll get up here, we'll turn the boat to starboard here and come about. Paddle in the water. A couple sweep strokes. And the water quiets down. You see I'm hardly moving through the water. The foam on the water showing me that I'm standing still in the water, basically. But the water, the current is pushing me back downstream underneath the bridge. So I haven't had much experience with fast-moving water with this boat yet, and I want to wait until the weather gets a little bit warmer so I can practice a little bit more in the riffles in case I should capsize. And in warm weather, it won't be such a big deal. Time to go off to the side and move the camera from the stern of the boat to the bow of the boat. This video was mostly taken with one GoPro camera. There was one scene up ahead where I go toward the stone railroad bridge. I took that with my phone, but otherwise I just used one camera. Here I used a suction cup mount, first putting it on the back of the boat and then moving it to the front. I do have another older action camera that I sometimes use, and that's nice because you can put one on the bow, one on the stern. You get a view from both directions. And if you take some extra video with your phone or some still pictures with your phone or another camera, you can integrate those into one of these YouTube videos and have a lot of interesting shots. I've mentioned the Butler Freeport Community Trail, the Rails to Trails project. I took over the Butler Branch Railroad. The Butler Branch Railroad ran between Freeport and Butler, Pennsylvania. Started in operation in 1871 and eventually became a part of the Pennsylvania Railroad and then Conrail and Norfolk Southern. The railroad hauled limestone and iron ore for the steel factories in Pittsburgh and Butler, and also hauled farm produce, sand, oil, and bricks. And it supported towns like Sarver, Cabot, and Great Belt that sprang up along the railroad line. Now, service was discontinued on the railroad line in 1987, and eventually in 2015, the Rails to Trails project was completed. Rails to Trail is a crushed limestone walking and bicycle trail. It runs along the wooded Buffalo Creek Valley, and it's also can be used for cross-country skiing, some parts for horseback riding, fishing, and bird watching. And I take my bicycle over there a few times each summer and ride a half dozen miles or so north out of Freeport, then turn around and come back. The path is mostly shaded under trees and so is pleasant to travel on in the hot sunny days of summer. Haven't yet taken my fishing rod along with me on this trail, but maybe this year. Now we're going back underneath the 2nd Street Bridge here, and this is the one video section that I took with my cell phone of the stone bridge of Norfolk Southern's Conemaugh line, formerly the Pennsylvania Railroad's Conemaugh line. This railroad line runs from a junction with the railroad's New York City to Chicago main line just west of New Florence, and follows the Conemaugh, Kiskiminetus, and Allegheny rivers to rejoin the main line at Pittsburgh's northern shore. The line is used mainly by the railroad as an alternative if traffic gets busy or tied up on the main line tracks. Although it's a mostly water-level route, it is not the preferred way to go because it follows the course of the rivers, and it's hampered by lots of curves, which limit how fast trains can go. The Conemaugh line follows the Kiskiminetus River, where I do most of my paddling between Salzburg and the Allegheny River, and I usually see 1 or 2 trains whenever I am out paddling on the Kiski. Here I'm making a left turn off of the Buffalo Creek, and now I'm on the Allegheny River proper. Just going to go up here maybe 50 yards and take a peek at the river and turn around, head back to the boat ramp and call it a day. You can see the high-level Route 356 bridge in the background behind me. The Allegheny River is really wide, but it's not really intimidating. Maybe during the peak of the summer months it would be, with speedboats and jet skis, but on a first week in March day, it's very quiet. I was the only one out on the water there. Freeport is just off to the right of the picture there. So we'll dig in here, grab the end of the paddle, lean over, do an outside edge turn, some sweep strokes. Now an experienced paddler would have the boat much further up on edge, the water almost lapping inside the boat, and it would only take 5 or 6 strokes for an experienced paddler to turn the boat around, but I'm still too afraid of tippiness. I'll have to have some experience this summer. There you can see the whole Allegheny River behind me, and the Baker Trail is up on that hill behind my shoulders, the peak you see back there. So overall it was a very pleasant day, and Buffalo Creek is nice that it's only 12 miles and 20 minutes from my home. The only complaint is that the lower little bit that I paddled today is entirely within the town limits, and it's really quite noisy. Lots of bustle, industrial sounds, as well as having routes 356 and 28 right there, with traffic noise, jake brakes on trucks, police, fire, and ambulance sirens. But it's still a nice day to get out and stretch the muscles. We were going back underneath the Conemaugh Railroad line stone arch bridge and coming back up on the boat dock. Land the boat, put it back on the trailer, head back home. In case you were wondering about that orange color from the acid mine drainage, coal mines contain the mineral pyrite, which you may know of as fool's gold. Now, pyrite reacts with water and air to form sulfuric acid and yellow iron salts. The sulfuric acid makes the water highly acidic, and the iron salts and other minerals stain the water and coat the rocks a red, orange, or yellow color. Now, the orange particles stain and coat the stream bottom and is nicknamed Yellow Boy. Now, Yellow Boy clings to objects it comes into contact with, including submerged logs, rocks, fish gills, or even aquatic insects. And once you have the acids in the water and the Yellow Boy, few organisms can survive in streams polluted by acid mine drainage like that. Now here I'm coming up to the dock, and this is the busiest time for any paddler trying to maneuver your boat. You get to use lots of different strokes, draw strokes and pry strokes and sweep strokes, and try to get your boat to settle down and to just move very slowly and come in parallel to the shore, and just very gently come up. So I was okay at doing that this day, but it turned out a little bit with a thump at the end. Quick little stab, stab. Watch a tree branch. Oh. Stab, stab. Crunch, crunch, crunch on the bottom. And put a paddle in, bring it parallel to the shore. And there we go. Bonk. Home again. Take the skirt off. There was another boat waiting to get in the water, so I'm kind of scurrying here. There's another boat on trail in the ramp. Put the paddle behind you as a brace. Unbend those knees, which have been bent for half hour. Oh, get up, get up. Ah. Secure the paddle. Pick up the boat. Set the boat down here. Like 10 seconds later, that trailer was backing down into the water. I'm lucky that this boat only weighs 35 or 40 pounds and I can still manage to haul it around. I'm happy I have the trailer instead of having to put it up on the roof of the car. My other boats have a bigger boat that's 70 pounds, and that was almost impossible to get on the roof. I've got a smaller fishing kayak that's about 40 pounds, and that's tough to get up on the roof, so the trailer was definitely the way to go. Got these ratchet straps. Make sure the boat is ratcheted down. Bing, bing. They make a sound like a guitar when they're tight enough. It's probably not necessary, but it's not a bad idea. I have a little orange flag that I put on the very tail end of the boat. I'm sure that annoys drivers as I'm going down the road. And pretty much one final check and pretty much ready to go.